Good evening, Jai Gurudev. Welcome to all of you on behalf of DSPPL in today's session. DSPPL की तरफ से आप सब लोगों का आज के सेशन में स्वागत है। आज के सेशन की शुरुआत हम थोड़ी देर में ही करेंगे। आज के डॉक्टर आदित्य अभ्यंकर is joining in yes, 1 minute. I think Aditya joined. So Aditya sir, have you joined?
Yes, namaste.
Namaste, yes. Welcome once again. On behalf of DSPPL, welcome in this social empowerment forum, where on every new moon and full moon, we invite faculties and experts from different fields so that a new way of looking at life, a new perspective can be presented to our participants, to our audience. DSPPL is basically working for holistic development. The objective and the philosophy is very simple. It is a spirituality in every walk of life. So we want to make good humans. There are enough of good engineers, good doctors, good lawyers, and good chartered accountants. What we are probably lacking is good humans. और एक बार मनुष्य को मनुष्यत्व की खोज उसकी पूरी हो गई तो शायद वो जो भी चीज करेगा वो अच्छी ही करेगा, ऐसा गुरुजी का मानना है। और इसी विचार से, इसी प्रेरणा से हम ये सोशल एम्पावरमेंट फोरम की ओर से ये अलग अलग फैकल्टीज को बुलाते हैं। आज के हमारे डिस्टिंग्विश फैकल्टी है डॉक्टर आदित्य अभ्यंकर। आदित्य जी, वंस अगेन वेलकम ऑन दिस फोरम। ऑफिशियल इंट्रोडक्शन आदित्य. Aditya is currently working as a director, School of Technology, and professor in Department of Technology of prestigious Pune University. He is associated as an adjunct professor with prestigious COEP College of Pune and also research associate with Clarkson University, USA. He is on advisory committee and board of studies of many national and international universities. Dr. Aditya completed his BE in Electronics and Telecommunication, and then he completed his MS and PhD degree from Clarkson University. Apart from his academic excellence in engineering field, he has also completed PhD in Sanskrit with specialization in Vedanta. And for MA, he stood first in the university. He is also MBA in Finance, MA in Philosophy, and research was focusing on Nasadiya Sukta from Rigveda. He has won number of national and state level awards, prestigious awards like Sir C.V. Raman Award of 2015. He has 8 US patents, 14 Indian patents, 7 disclosures, 8 technology transfers, and 5 US copyrights to its credit. Very distinguished faculty. We are really proud of Aditya ji. He has been also participated with several funded research projects and consultancy activities. He is also entrepreneur, director of Adijit Softtech Private Limited. He is working in the field of intelligent framework for pattern recognition based solution. And we are very proud to announce that he was closely associated with the Aadhaar project as well. So very distinguished faculty. Once again, Aditya ji, welcome on this particular forum. और आज का जो आपका टॉपिक है, that is very near to your heart also. That is the role of ancient Indian rituals in overall personality development. बचपन से बहुत सारी चीजें हम करते आ रहे हैं और बहुत बार जब हम छोटे थे तो शायद हमारा माइंड इतना इंक्वायरिंग नहीं था जितना आजकल के बच्चों का है। हर एक छोटी छोटी रिचुअल्स के पीछे क्या राज है, उसके पीछे क्या साइंस है, ये वो जानना चाहते हैं। शायद हम जब छोटे थे तब हमने भी सवाल करने की कोशिश की और कुछ चीजें बड़े कह रहे, बड़े कर रहे और उनको देखकर हम वो करते गए। डेफिनेटली उसका फायदा हुआ, नहीं हुआ ऐसा तो कह ही नहीं सकते, पर वही जानने के लिए आज आपको यहाँ पे निमंत्रित किया गया है। सो आदित्य जी, फोरम इज ओवर टू यू। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
Thank you so very much, and namaste to all. It's an honor and privilege to be back on DSPPL platform. My Sadar Vandan to Guruji, and thank you, Pranjal, for your gracious words. In fact, you are a little too gracious in introducing me. And I'm going to share my presentation. I will request you to please tell me whether it's visible so that we can get started with the session. Just give me a minute. So is my presentation visible?
Yes, it is visible now.
And sometimes Zoom does little crazy things. So I will just make sure that everything is in place before we... Can you see my second slide?
Yes.
Wonderful. And can you also see what I have written on the screen? Is it visible to you?
Not right.
Oh, it's not?
No.
That could be because I can see it. I don't know why it's not visible to you.
Yeah. Now it's there.
Okay, wonderful. So let's get started. And once again, it's an honor and privilege, like I said, to be on DSPPL platform. And my Sadar welcome and namaste to all of you Thank you for joining in this session. And I completely agree with Pranjal that this topic is very close to my heart. And there are many facets, there are many aspects to this topic. And we intend to bring out a few of those by virtue of doing discussions, deliberations, and hopefully by the end of the sessions, we'll be able to form a consensus all together. We have titled this as Role of Ancient Rituals in Overall Personality Development. And I had kept this title in safe hands of Pranjal, and he's the architect of this title. And as we know, the ancient rituals in Hindu Dharma are very scientific, and it's very important to understand the meaning behind these rituals so that with complete devotion, then we'll be able to follow that path. And we intend to bring few very interesting pointers out which are connected with these ancient rituals and see how they help in developing our personality. But personality is what we see when everyone is watching, and character is what we have when no one is watching. And personality is only a manifestation of the character. So beneath what lies is character. And these ancient rituals, they are also very helpful in making our character purer. And that's why the personality also becomes better and elevated. We are indeed very fortunate that we are born in Hindu Dharma, the Sanatan Vedic Dharma, which is in the modern era, what is popularly known to us as Hindu Dharma. And we are indeed very fortunate. And this is because Hindu Dharma is experiential and scientific. हिंदी में हम कहते हैं कि this is pratyayakari. The great saints and the acharyas, they could experience the truth, they could experience the divine, and then they were able to translate it into simple words for all of us. And that's why our dharma is experiential and scientific both. And as a result of that, the very core thinking of our dharma has always been global. It has always been universal. It has always been for the betterment of mankind and society at large. And that's why we say, Ano Bhadraha Kratavo Yantu Vishwataha. We always say, Bhadram Karne Bishruniyama Devaha. All the thoughts that we hear, they should be good, auspicious, and holy. And then we pray for the betterment of all, not just Hindus, not just Indians, not just human beings, but for all. And that's why we say, Sarvepi Sukhinas Santu, Sarve Santu Niramayaha. And we can sense this, we can feel this, we can comprehend this across the teachings and writings of all our acharyas, all our gurus, and all our saints. In Pasaidan, Santa Jnaneshwar says, Zoze Vanchila Totela. It is just like Sarvepi Sukhinas Santu. Santa Tukaram says, Vishnumaya Jaga Vaishnavansa Dharma Bheda Veda Brahma Amangala. So our thinking has always been global. It has been always universal. And all acharyas and all the saints, they help us walk that path of spirituality, righteousness, virtues and values. There is a beautiful story from Yaksha Prashna. So you must have heard of this very famous episode from Mahabharata, wherein the Yaksha asks many interesting questions and Yudhishthir gives even more beautiful answers. And in one of the questions, the Yaksha asks, Ka Dik? What is the Disha or the direction? And a common man would have said east, west, north, south, or Agneya Nairuttya Vayuva Ishanya, or Urdhva and Adha. We talk about Dasha Disha, the 10 different directions. But Yudhishthir comes up with a beautiful answer and he says, Santo Dik. Sant hi hamari disha hai. Because whatever the saints they do, they exemplify. And that's why Mahajano Yena Gatah Sapanthaha. That's the path that is followed by all these Karak Purush, saints, and acharyas. As a consequence of this, as a consequence of the very core thinking of our dharma being extremely global, it has stood the test of time. And for last several thousands of years, the Hindu dharma has been providing the light of enlightenment for the entire humankind. We saw Greek culture, Roman culture, the Mayan culture, the Mexican culture, the Sumerian culture, the Egyptian culture, and there are so many other, like Iranian culture, for example. It came by and it went. It became extinct. The only culture that has stood the test of time for thousands of years is the Hindu religion, Hindu dharma, and Hindu culture. We also know that religion is a very word with a small connotation, and dharma has a bigger depth. And dharma essentially stands for righteousness and the path that helps us walk on that righteous path. And that's why we need to understand what must be the reason why Hindu dharma was able to stand the test of time for so much. And one of the reasons for this could be our rituals. Do Indian rituals play a role in this? And that is something that we want to understand and uncover in today's talk. This is only one fold of it. And this question is multifold. And the answer of this question is also multifold. So it is not only Indian rituals that has done it, but Indian rituals, they have definitely played a very important, very significant role. And that is something that we wish to uncover in today's session. By the way, my request to you all is this session is very informal session. Today, it's Kojagiri full moon, Kojagiri Purnima, and Lakshmi Mata is asking us this question, Ko Jagarti Iti. And it's not just whether we are awakened physically. The question is whether we are awakened spiritually. and are we asking right questions? So this session is very open. We all are sadhak, we all are seekers. And if you want to ask a question at any point in time, please feel free to ask that question. And that will be in the spirit of Kojagiri full moon. We also know that Hindu Dharma is not compulsive, it is only suggestive. So all the rituals are suggested. There is no compulsion that we should strictly follow it. And that's why, in truest possible sense, Hindu Dharma is truly democratic in that sense. Uh, we also know that our literature is in the form of dialogues. Bhagavad Gita is a dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna. And after preaching the whole philosophy, towards the end of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Yathechasi tatha kuru. Now I have taught you everything, I have told you everything, and now you please do as you wish. So there is no compulsion. It is not adnyarthak. There are no directives. There are no commandments. It is vidyarthak. It is after Guru enlightens the Shishya, the disciple, the Guru would say that this is the path that you should follow for your enlightenment and betterment. So it is suggestive, it is not compulsive. And that's why our literature is in the form of dialogues. And I would like to speak a little more on this because this point is extremely important. The literature being in the form of dialogues is very, very crucial, very, very important. Samarth Ramdas Swami has written a beautiful manuscript and it's called Manobodh. And towards the end of every samas, it says Guru Shishya Samvade. So it's a dialogue between Guru and Shishya. If you look at Chandogya Upanishad, it's a dialogue between Uddala Karuni and Shvetaketu. Or Ashtavakra Gita is a dialogue between King Janak and sage Ashtavakra. And it's very important to have this tradition of dialogues. Otherwise, it becomes a monologue and then it becomes only one directional path. It has to be bilateral. Unless interesting searching questions are asked, we cannot create the tradition of research. And that's why the Sanshodhan, the research that we talk about so much in the modern era, is in the DNA of the complete construct and the framework of Hindu Dharma. And that's why our literature is in the form of dialogues. Is it not so much very interesting that Arjun asked all those relevant questions before the war, before the bloodshed? We can see so many examples that there were great kings and they killed thousands of people. And after shedding so much of blood, then they realized that, oh, what I have done. And then they did all the renunciation and they started walking the path of enlightenment. But the main difference between all those paths and Hindu Dharma is before the bloodshed, before the war, Arjun asked all these relevant questions. He wanted to make sure that he is not doing anything incorrect, unjust, and it is so much very important. Out of all these critical thinking, our rituals have emerged out. And this is the reason why our rituals are very, very scientific. If our literature was not in the form of dialogues, probably the rituals wouldn't have been so scientific. And that's why it's important to understand the complete framework that lies beneath, and the rituals are only the manifestation of that very scientific framework that lies beneath. It's also extremely important that we had Gurukul system, and the gurus, they used to look at 360 degrees development of the disciples. Sometimes we raise this question that in classical music, why the guru teaches that disciple only one rag for 2 years or 3 years or 4 years? Is it not really strange? Like Rag Bhoop or Yaman or Bhairavi or Bhairav, just one single rag is taught for 2 years, 3 years. Is it not boring? And will the disciple not get bored? Well, one way of understanding this process is the Guru is not only teaching that rag, the Guru is teaching the complete mechanism, how to learn, how to unlearn, how to relearn, and how to teach yourself, so that once the complete process is understood, the disciple can teach himself or herself the rest of the ragas and the rest of the systems. And that's why the Gurukul system, which was based on the whole construct of asking interesting questions, is very important. Pranjal at the beginning said that the next generation is more curious, more inquisitive, and they ask many questions. To be very honest with you, all generations are curious and inquisitive. But unfortunately, the British education system that we have imbibed, it doesn't allow school kids to ask interesting questions because our exams are based on memorizing the things. The students, they memorize and they reproduce. And sure, memory is important. We call it as Tallak Smaran Shakti. It's good to have good memory, but only to an extent. Beyond memorization, the comprehension and understanding the concepts is extremely important. And unfortunately, the British, they never wanted to create thinking manpower out of their educational pattern. And that's why they only brought in a very rigid educational pattern, and that was imposed upon us. British left, and post independence, we did not do much. We accepted that pattern as is. And as a consequence of that, very rarely our students, they get formal opportunities to ask interesting questions. The professors and the teachers, they are only after covering the syllabus, but sometimes it's important to uncover certain things. And it's not important how much we are teaching. It's very important how we are teaching our students. Are we giving them opportunities to be inquisitive and curious and ask interesting questions? In fact, the first karika in Sankhya Karika is Athato Dukkhatre Vigata Tadavighatake Heto Jidnyasa. So there is that jidnyasa and the curiosity factor. And unless we really help our students by giving them that freedom and wilderness towards asking interesting questions, they will not be able to satisfy their curiosities. We also must understand that Hindu Dharma is symbolic. And these symbols are extremely important for manifestation. The core of Hindu Dharma is philosophical, no doubt about it. However, unless these philosophical cruxes are brought out of the clutches, they may not be able to manifest. And that's why the rituals, they play extremely important role, because it's very important that the concept, the someone has raised a hand. Is there a question, Shivang and Mittal? Please feel free to ask question. Are you not able to? Oh, in between Hindi, please. Sure. I will also pitch in with a little bit of Hindi in between. आ ही जाएगा. So हिंदू धर्म का जो गाभा है वो तत्व ज्ञान का है. And Tatvajnan remains at the center. The philosophy remains at the center. लेकिन उसका जो प्रगटीकरण है, उसका जो manifestation है, that happens through rituals. And we call these rituals as संस्कार. हमारे हिंदू धर्म में 16 संस्कार प्रधान बताए गए हैं. And all these 16 sacraments, 16 संस्कार, they are very, very scientific. And they are manifestations of the scientific philosophical thinking that our ancestors, they did. However, we also need to understand the science behind it. If we only understand the rituals and if we keep performing them without understanding the science behind it, they will carry very little meaning. And that's why we are discussing out in this session few of the sacraments which are important ones. Action plan is very important. So I work at Pune University, and the tagline of Pune University, Bodhavakya of Pune University is Yah Kriyavan Sa Panditah. You can have knowledge, but if you're not acting upon that knowledge, then it's very difficult to call such person as Pandit. And that's why action plan is also extremely, extremely important. The scientific action plans for upliftment in both domains, materialistic domain as well as spiritual domain, is important. और हमारे धर्म की कणाद ऋषि ने व्याख्या दी है जिसमें वो कहते हैं यतो अभ्युदय निश्रेयस सिद्धि सधर्मः. सो धर्म में दोनों चीजें आती है, अभ्युदय which is material prosperity and nishreyas siddhi which is spiritual enlightenment. So both the things are important. We start with material prosperity and slowly and gradually move towards spiritual attainment. So our dharma talks about both these things, and as a result of that, our rituals are meant for representing both of these, the material prosperity as well as spiritual attainment. There is also historical piece. So our ancient rituals are extremely scientific, क्योंकि हमारे जो बहुत पुराने rituals है, they are taken from Vedas. वेदो अखिलो धर्म मूलम, हमारे धर्म का जो मूल स्थान है वो है हमारे वेद. एंड मोस्ट ऑफ द रिचुअल्स, जितने भी हमारे संस्कार है, these are taken from यजुर्वेद and अथर्ववेद predominantly. And that's why the ancient rituals are very, very scientific. From immemorial times of Vedas, as we move towards medieval times, the medieval rituals are semi-scientific. They are not fully scientific, they are semi-scientific. And as far as the modern rituals are concerned, they are unfortunately blind. And many times in the modern era, we follow them and they have become conventions. Sometimes it's important to defy conventions. Sometimes it's very important to bring in the relationship with the times in which you are working. And that's why we are going to discuss on these points as well in today's talk. And the modern generation should at least attempt to understand the science beneath. If we can tell them the science beneath few of the rituals, then probably they'll be able to dig deeper to figure out the science behind the rest of the rituals. We will not be able to discuss all the rituals because we have constraints of time. There is also limitation of the knowledge of the speaker, and that's why we will not be able to discuss all the rituals. But let's at least discuss the important rituals. जो भी हमारे main संस्कार है, let's discuss them out. I will try and cover few of them during the talk, and then probably we should give more time for questions and answers. Yes, Pranjal.
Yeah. Aditya, sorry to ask the first question here itself.
Sure.
ये सेंटेंस बहुत पसंद आया मुझे कि आपने लिखा है एंशिएंट रिचुअल्स साइंटिफिक, medieval rituals semi scientific and modern rituals are blind. Most of the time हमें ऐसा लगता है कि हम प्रगति की दिशा की ओर जा रहे हैं, but after reading your this particular sentence ऐसा लग रहा है कि जो आज के हमारे रिचुअल्स है वो ब्लाइंड है, ऐसा आप कह रहे हो. So is it because that we are moving away from the nature? निसर्ग से जितना हम दूर जा रहे हैं उतना क्या हमारे ये संस्कार या जो रिचुअल्स है वो ब्लाइंड होते जा रहे हैं?
Yes, that is, and thank you for asking the first question, Pranjal. Really appreciate that. Yes, one of the reasons is we are definitely moving away from nature. In Rigved, all the deities are from nature. ऋग्वेद में हमने सूर्य की आराधना की है. ऋग्वेद में हमने पृथ्वी आप तेज वायु पंच महाभूत की आराधना की है. ऋग्वेद में हमारे देवता है ही नहीं, but we are in the modern era, we are moving away from the nature. That's definitely one reason. Other couple of reasons are the invasions. जो भी आक्रमक आए, they purposely destroyed our culture. जो पहले आक्रमक आए, जो बारबेरियंस थे, जैसे मुस्लिम आक्रमक जो थे, उन्होंने हमारे मंदिरों को ध्वस्त कर दिया, but they did not perturbate our scriptures and manuscripts. जब ब्रिटिशर्स आए, जब पोर्चुगीज आए, जब डच आए, जब फ्रेंच आए, they started playing around with our manuscripts and they brought in different educational patterns. So in 1835 when Macaulay's Minute got published, हमारा पूरा अध्ययन इंग्लिश हो गया. और स्वामी विवेकानंद जी का एक बड़ा ही इंटरेस्टिंग सेंटेंस है. वो कहते हैं कि जब अंग्रेजी भाषा में आप शिक्षा प्राप्त कर लेते हो, बाय द एंड ऑफ द फर्स्ट वीक यू से कि मेरे माता और पिता कितने बड़े मूर्ख थे. बाय द एंड ऑफ द फर्स्ट मंथ यू स्टार्ट सेइंग कि हमारा राष्ट्र एक बहुत मूर्ख राष्ट्र है. This is the word that Swamiji has used. And after a year's time, you start saying all our ancestors, हमारे सारे पूर्वज मूर्ख थे. This is the effect of English education. And after 1835, this is what Macaulay, he wanted to do. He has written it in black and white in the letter that he wrote to his wife. And to a large extent, the British were successful. See, the unfortunate part is Quran is written in a language that is spoken even today. Bible is written in a language that is semi-spoken even today. So Latin is not completely understood and spoken, but at least to a greater extent, it is still understood. How many of us, we really understand Sanskrit? How many of us can speak in Sanskrit? And it's such a beautiful language. Madhuram Givarna Bhasha, Deva Bhasha. It's such a wonderful language, but unfortunately, we do not speak this. And it's very easy to understand. For example, if Arjuna tells Krishna, Ubhayor Senoyor Madhye Sthapayitva Rathottam, that means between the two battlefields, please take my chariot and I want to ask you a few questions. So it's very easy language to understand. It's only a matter of practice. And this is also one of the reasons, because we don't understand Sanskrit and because most of our scriptures are in Sanskrit, in modern era, we don't understand the importance of rituals. Sheetalji, you have raised your hand. Please go ahead and ask your question.
नमस्कार सर.
नमस्ते.
मी मराठीत विचारलं तर चालेल का? जास्त क्लिअरली विचारता येईल. तुम्ही ह्याच्याबद्दल सांगितलं उपनिषद किंवा वेद. तर ऋग्वेदामध्ये नेचरशी रिलेटेड सगळे देवता आपण हे करतो. तर मला असं म्हणायचं की ज्या आत्ताच्या पिढीला जिथे इफेक्ट दिसेल त्यांना आपल्याला समजून सांगायची गरजच नाही पडणार. सो जसं सामवेदामध्ये जास्त मंत्र आणि ह्याचा उच्चार केल्याने ऑटोमॅटिकली इफेक्ट दिसेल. तर मला तेच म्हणायचं की आजकाल तुम्ही जर देवाचं कर जरी म्हटलं आपण घरामध्ये मुलीला लहान मुलांना, तरी त्यांना असं काहीतरी अनयुज्युअल बोलल्यासारखं वाटतं, आपण काहीतरी वेगळं सांगतोय. सो त्यांना ते इफेक्टिव्हली ते दिसेल, ऑटोमॅटिकली त्यांना एक्सपिरियन्स आला तर त्यांना आपल्याला काही कन्व्हिन्स करायची गरज नाही पडणार. सो आपण मग काय आपण त्याच्यामध्ये काय करू शकतो? कारण मी स्वतः जेव्हा मला एक्सपिरियन्शियली गोष्टी कळल्या तर ऑटोमॅटिकली मी त्याच्यामध्ये आणखीन घुसत गेली की बाबा ह्याचा अर्थ काय, किंवा देव हाच कन्सेप्ट इतका मोठा आहे विचार करायला की अख्खं आयुष्य निघेल त्याच्यामध्ये. सो रिच्युअल्स ह्याचा इफेक्ट कसा आपल्याला त्यांना ऑटोमॅटिकली देता येईल, अदरवाईज म्हणजे कसा देता येईल अदर दॅन फॉलोइंग ओनली द ब्लाइंडली रिच्युअल्स फॉलो करण्यापेक्षा.
नक्की.
Yeah,
Thank you. This is
just for the benefit of all,
yeah.
शीतल जी asking a question. शीतल जी ये सवाल पूछ रहे हैं कि बच्चों को रिचुअल्स के बारे में अगर इफेक्ट दिखाई दिया तो उनको एक्सप्लेन करने की ज्यादा आवश्यकता नहीं होगी. तो हम ऐसा क्या कर सकते हैं, ऐसा उनका सवाल है, जिस माध्यम से बच्चों को इफेक्ट दिखाई दे, सो दैट आप भगवान की पूजा करो या भगवान के बारे में कुछ करो, ये कहने की नौबत ना आए. ऐसा सवाल उन्होंने पूछा है. या आदित्य प्लीज.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल. एंड आई हैव वन स्लाइड ऑन दैट. मैं उसके ऊपर भाष्य करने वाला हूं. सो प्लीज होल्ड बैक योर क्यूरियोसिटी जस्ट फॉर लिटिल लॉन्गर, और हम उस बारे में बात करेंगे. बट फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल लेट्स अंडरस्टैंड. देयर इज वन मोर रेज्ड हैंड फ्रॉम जयराम जी. जयराम जी, यस प्लीज गो अहेड.
नमस्कार आदित्य जी.
नमस्ते.
हाँ, आपने जो रिचुअल्स के बारे में बताया कि एंशिएंट रिचुअल्स, मेडिएवल रिचुअल्स एंड मॉडर्न रिचुअल्स, तो उसका मतलब वो कैसे उसका डिवैल्यूएशन होते गया ओवर अ पीरियड ऑफ टाइम.
मैं उसका भी एग्जांपल देने वाला हूँ. जस्ट होल्ड
हाँ,
बैक.
तो यस, ओके, माय क्वेश्चन इज पर्टेनिंग टू दैट. थैंक यू.
Yes, yes, we are going to discuss about it.
Yeah.
So see, we all know, yes, Deepali ji, there is one more raised hand. I'm so happy that this is interactive and you all are asking questions. So बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपको. Deepali ji, please.
नहीं है. हेलो.
Yes. नमस्ते.
नमस्कार आदित्य. मेरा एक क्वेश्चन था. अगर वेद पढ़ना भी चाहो तो वो अवेलेबल नहीं होते हैं. जो भी मिलते हैं मेरे पास है, लेकिन जो भी पढ़ो उसका कुछ समझता नहीं है. तो अगर वेद एक्चुअल में पढ़ना है, लर्न करना है मुझे, तो मैं कहाँ पे जाऊँ या फिर कहाँ से खरीदूं, या फिर कौन से मतलब कौन से प्रकाशन का ले लूं कि जिससे मैं पूरा अच्छी तरह से अंडरस्टैंड कर सकती हूँ और फिर वो मेरे बच्चों को भी समझा सकूं.
बिल्कुल, बहुत अच्छा सवाल है. एंड वी कैन डिस्कस मोर अबाउट दिस टुवर्ड्स द एंड. लेकिन वेद ये मौखिक विद्या है, और हमारे यहाँ वेद पाठशाला होते हैं जहाँ पे आप जाकर उनका अध्ययन कर सकते हैं. और वेदों के जो ऋचा होते हैं उनका अगर आपको मीनिंग समझना है, सो देयर इज अ ब्यूटीफुल बुक रिटन बाय यास्काचार्य. इट्स कॉल्ड एज निरुक्त और निघंटु. तो जैसे हमारे 4 वेद है, वैसे वेदांग है. देयर आर 6 वेदांगस एंड वन ऑफ देम इज निरुक्त. So Nirukta stands for epistemology. It tells you meaning of every single word और उसको किस context में लेना चाहिए, so that you can understand the meaning of all the riches from Vedas. भाषा, निरुक्ता, छंद, व्याकरण, ज्योतिष, these are 6 different वेदांगास. और उनके उपयोग से आपको वेदों का तात्पर्य, वेदों का अर्थ समझ में आ सकता है. बट वेद मौखिक विद्या है, एंड इट्स इंपॉर्टेंट टू सिट एट द लोटस फीट ऑफ गुरुजी एंड टेक इट डायरेक्टली फ्रॉम द गुरु. बट वी विल टॉक मोर अबाउट इट. धन्यवाद.
ओके, थैंक यू.
थैंक यू. वी ऑल अंडरस्टैंड, हमारे यहाँ पे षट दर्शन है, और दर्शन के बारे में हम बोलते हैं कि ऋषिर दर्शनात्. उनको आत्मदर्शन हो गया, and that's how they came up with their own scriptures. ये जो षट दर्शन है उसमें कपिल जी का सांख्य दर्शन है, पतंजलि ऋषि का योग दर्शन है. सो सांख्य और योग ये एक ड्यूएल है. न्याय एंड वैशेषिक फ्रॉम कणाद एंड गौतम, ये एक पेयर है. एंड द लास्ट पेयर इज पूर्व मीमांसा फ्रॉम जैमिनी एंड उत्तर मीमांसा और ब्रह्म सूत्र फ्रॉम नन अदर देन व्यास महर्षि. तो ये हमारे षट दर्शन है. इसमें जो ब्रह्म सूत्र है या उत्तर मीमांसा है, दैट इज कॉल्ड एज ज्ञान कांड, एंड इट टॉक्स अबाउट नॉलेज. एंड जो भी पूर्व मीमांसा है उसको कहते हैं कर्म कांड. इट टॉक्स अबाउट रिचुअल्स विच आर इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर क्रिएशन ऑफ धर्म. And Purva Mimamsa is Karma Kanda. It's also called as rituals. And Uttar Mimamsa or Brahma Sutra is Jnana Kanda. It's also the pathway of integral knowledge. And the first sutra in Purva Mimamsa is Athato Dharma Jignasa. Now, like we said, Dharma ये बहुत बड़ी संज्ञा है. It is different than religion. Religion का मीनिंग बहुत संकुचित है, बहुत छोटा है. धर्म माने राइशियस पाथ, धर्म माने रेक्टिट्यूड, धर्म माने मोरालिटी, धर्म माने वैल्यूज, धर्म माने वर्चुअस पाथ, धर्म माने ऑनर एंड द प्यूरिटी. एंड दैट्स व्हाई अगर हमें बच्चों में ये सारे गुण दिखने चाहिए तो धर्म का परिशीलन बहुत आवश्यक है. अगर धर्म का परिशीलन करना हो तो किस माध्यम से करें? उस माध्यम का नाम है जो भी हमारे संस्कार है, जिसे हम रिचुअल्स कहते हैं, वो माध्यम है कि हम बच्चों को धर्म का यथार्थ ज्ञान दे सकें. एंड दैट्स व्हाई इन आवर सोसाइटी मोरल एंड एथिकल वैल्यूज आर हेल्ड हाईएस्ट. ये सत्य नहीं है फॉर द वेस्टर्न कल्चर. पाश्चिमात्य कल्चर में बहुत अलग विचारधारा है. इफ यू लुक एट प्रभु रामचंद्र, from Westerners' point of view, he is a complete failure. He is a complete disaster. He had to abandon his kingdom, went to Vanvas for 14 years. His wife was stolen. Then he had to win the battle against Ravan and then walk back again to Ayodhya. A complete disaster. But all throughout in his lifetime, he did the sacrificial work. And through the sacrifices, he was able to exemplify the ethical and moral values. And that's why all our rituals, they are meant towards this. How we can bring out the morality and the ethical values. The incarnations, they have exemplified this. And the ancient rituals are suggested in the form of yajna. That's why हमारे यहाँ यज्ञ संकल्पना है, यज्ञ संस्था है. In fact, our life is also a yajna. How? Just give me a minute and we are going to see that. And thus, rituals are guiding principles for individuals and society at large. See, we can always say कि हमारा जो धर्म है वो बहुत उदार है, सर्वसमावेशक है. But unless and until there is plan of action, unless and until there are guiding principles, our next generations, they will not be able to follow that path. And that's why these rituals, ये जो एक माध्यम है धर्म का यथार्थ ज्ञान होने के लिए और धर्म का अनुचरण अनुशीलन करने के लिए. We must also take one very important point in consideration. हमारे यहाँ 4 वर्ण थे और हर एक वर्ण के रिचुअल्स अलग अलग थे. एंड हम सब आजकल कास्ट सिस्टम मानते हैं. कास्ट इज डिफरेंट देन वर्ण. वेदों में, भगवत गीता में जाति का उल्लेख नहीं है. देयर इज नो मेंशन ऑफ कास्ट सिस्टम. व्हाट इज मेंशन्ड इन भगवत गीता is Varna system. The caste system was imposed upon us by the British because they really wanted to make sure that our society is not unified. भगवत गीता में ये कहा गया है कि चातुर्वर्ण्यम मया सृष्टम गुण कर्म विभागशः. As per the guna and karma, as per the qualities and the kind of work that a person does, his varna gets finalized. So varna is profession. जैसे प्रांजल जी चार्टेड अकाउंटेंट हैं, मैं अभियंता हूं, इंजीनियर हूं, लेकिन मैं पढ़ाता हूं इसलिए मैं अध्यापक हूं. मैं पढ़ाता हूं इसलिए मेरा वर्ण हो गया ब्राह्मण. हमारे जितने भी सोल्जर्स हैं जो सीमा पर हमारे देश की रक्षा करते हैं, उन सभी का वर्ण हो गया क्षत्रिय. हमारे जितने भी व्यापारी मित्र हैं उनका वर्ण हो गया वैश्य. और हमारे जितने भी कलाकार हैं, द आर्टिस्ट्स हु डू परफॉर्मिंग आर्ट्स एंड फाइन आर्ट्स, उनका वर्ण हो गया शूद्र. शूद्र इज डिफरेंट देन क्षुद्र. संस्कृत में क्षुद्र माने छोटा, और शूद्र ये एक वर्ण है, और शूद्र वर्ण में हमारे सारे आर्टिस्ट्स आते हैं। एंड एज पर योर वर्ण आपके रिचुअल्स अलग अलग हो जाते हैं। एज पर योर आश्रम, इफ यू आर अ सन्यासी आपके रिचुअल्स अलग हैं, इफ यू आर अ गृहस्थ आपके रिचुअल्स अलग हैं, अगर आप वानप्रस्थ में हैं आपके रिचुअल्स अलग हैं। And that's why we also must understand that these rituals are as per your varna and ashram. That's why we say our dharma is based on varnashrama, char varna or char ashram. We also must understand the big picture of yajna, because yajna exemplifies all the rituals. And the big picture of yajna is explained in a couple of beautiful verses from Bhagavad Gita. It's in the 3rd chapter, when Lord Krishna says, Annad bhavanti bhutani parjanyad anna sambhavaha. So all the beings, they come from the food that we eat. Parjanyad anna sambhavaha. All the food emerges out of the rains. Yajnad bhavati parjanyo yajnah karma samudbhavaha. And the rains, they emerge out of yajna. And the yajna emerges out of the karma that we perform. And that's why our karma should be very, very pure, very, very righteous. There is also one beautiful saying in Bhagavad Gita. It says that not even for 1 millisecond we can remain without performing any karma. And that's why the karma that we perform has to be of the form of yajna. The complete essence of Bhagavad Gita, there are 18 chapters, and Bhagavad Gita has given us so many beautiful conceptual pointers. But in my essence, in my opinion, the complete essence of Bhagavad Gita, we get to understand in one single verse, and that is this particular shlok that you see over here. 3.9 यज्ञार्थात् कर्मणोन्यत्र लोकोयम कर्म बंधनः तदर्थम कर्म कौन्तेय मुक्त संगः समाचर. So apart from yajna, any karma which is not of the form of yajna, it is going to create its bandhan. And that's why Lord Krishna suggests that a doer should become mukta sangha. And this is the very genesis of Naishkarmya Siddhi. We should do the kind of karma that will not lead to any bandhan, and that leads to moksha, that leads us to salvation. Now, what kind of karma will not lead to bandhan? Well, the selfless karma, the karma in which you are not working for your own self, you are working for society, you are working for a charitable trust, you are working and you are doing something that is good for the nation. So anything that is beyond your own self, that is done with a selfless motive, is the kind of karma which is termed as yajna. And such kind of karma is not going to lead to any bandhan, and that is going to help us lead to salvation. And that's why all the rituals are meant towards that. And the foundation of all our rituals is sacrifice, tyaga. So tyag is the foundation of all our rituals. And that's why yajna is not just about the offerings that we give in the holy fire. Our entire life is a kind of a yajna. Our every action is an offering that we can give in that yajna, which is the complete life. It's a universe encompassing concept. And that's why the sacrificial deeds are the founding block of all our rituals. We also know that there are conceptual pointers. So this is what I was talking about. From the Vedas, we get to understand that there are 5 different types of yajnas. Brahma yajna, which predominantly tells us that we should engage ourselves in gaining knowledge. It's a pathway of complete integral knowledge. Deva yajna, these are deeds for social good. Pitru Yajna, Manushya Yajna, and Bhuta Yajna. Now again, Bhuta Yajna concentrates on nature, giving back to nature. If you want to cut a tree because you want to build a road, make sure that you are planting 1,000 trees before cutting that tree. This is called as Bhuta Yajna. So these were the concepts which were given in the Vedic times. Later on, in the medieval times, this is what Jairamji was asking. In the medieval times, the more focus went on the actual processes. And these typically would include 7 types of Havi Samstha. It includes Agnihotra, Chaturmasya, Darsha Purnamas, and so on and so forth. It also typically would include 7 types of Soma Samstha, like Agnishtom, Atiratra. It would include different types of Ritvij, like Hota and Advaryu, and different types of utensils that you would want to use for the Yajna, like Arani and Ukha, and also the Havir Dravya, like Purodash and Soma, and so on and so forth. So more focus in the medieval times, it went on the processes. In the Vedic times, the focus was on concept, and the concept was sacrificial offerings. The rituals, the yajna, is all about your ability to sacrifice. And the whole human life is a yajna, which is based on the very basic concept of sacrificial offerings. There is a beautiful shlok in Manache Shlok, the 10th one in the Manache Shlok, and it says that Sada Sarvada Preeti Rami Dharavi. So if you want to show your preeti towards Prabhu Ramachandra, then what has to be done? Sukhachi swaye sandi jivi karavi. You have to sacrifice your own sukha, and only then you can go beyond you and contribute for the society. Dehe dukkhate sukha manit jave. So during this sacrificial process, if you come across sufferings, you should not complain about those sufferings because you are doing it for the larger cause. If we keep this in our mind, then the rituals will start making more sense. How? We'll see a few quick examples. Now let's come to the crux of it, the points which Sheetalji also asked and Deepaliji also asked. An important aspect of rituals is idol worshipping, Saguna Puja, जिसमें हम प्रभु रामचंद्र जी की, भगवान कृष्ण जी की एक मूर्ति लेते हैं और प्रतिदिन उसकी पूजा करते हैं. इट्स कॉल्ड एज डेली पूजा. प्रतिदिन हम उसकी पूजा करते हैं. शिवांग जी, आपको कोई क्वेश्चन पूछना है तो probably not. Okay. So प्रतिदिन हम जो पूजा करते हैं, अगर हम समझ ले कि why idol worshipping is important, only then once we are convinced, we can convince the next generations. And the question would be, if the Chaitanya, the Brahma Chaitanya, that ultimate one, is Nirgun and Nirakar, it does not have any form, it does not have any taste, it does not have any color. If that ultimate thing is Nirgun and Nirakar, हम सगुण साकार की पूजा क्यों करें? Why should we do idol worshipping? हम सगुणा भक्ति क्यों करें? And this is a very important question, and we should have convincing answer to this question. And to help you convince yourselves, I will share one very interesting episode, one very interesting story, again from the life of Swami Vivekananda. Swami ji उनकी परिक्रमा कर रहे थे. He was visiting places. He was roaming around the entire length and breadth of our country. इसको हम देशाटन कहते हैं. He was able to figure out and understand the differences societal differences, and what kind of samaj we had in those days. And while doing this, वो अलवार के संस्थान में पहुंच गए, अ प्रिंसली स्टेट ऑफ अलवार. और उस स्टेट के संस्थानिक थे मंगल सिंह. मंगल सिंह राजा अलवार संस्थान के राजा थे, संस्थानिक थे. और उनके जो दीवान थे उनका नाम था राम सिंह राव, रामकृष्ण राव, राम सिंह राव. एंड राम सिंह राव, ही केम टू स्वामी विवेकानंद एंड उनको बड़े प्यार से वो अलवार के संस्थान ले गए. एंड मंगल सिंह started discussing many interesting things from Hindu Dharma and Hindu Sanskriti. And Swamiji was giving answers, he was clarifying many of his doubts. And during these discussions, suddenly, Mangal Singh ji asked Swamiji one question. And he said, कि Swamiji, I don't believe in idol worshipping. सगुण पूजा में मेरा बिल्कुल विश्वास नहीं है. And Swamiji said, are you serious? Or are you making fun of me? Because I have seen the length and breadth of our country, and thousands and lakhs and crores of people, they believe in idol worshipping, and you are saying you don't believe in idol worshipping. Or Mangal Singh bole, I don't believe in it. And to convince him, Swamiji did one very interesting trick. Mangal Singh ji ko एक बड़ा विचित्र शौक था. वो अपनी खुद की तस्वीरें बना लेते थे फ्रॉम अ पेंटर, एंड देन ही वुड हैंग दोज पेंटिंग्स ऑन द वॉल्स. उनके जो दीवान जी थे रामकृष्ण राव, उनको स्वामी जी ने कहा कि वो मंगल सिंह जी की वो एक तस्वीर है, वो आप निकाल कर मेरे पास ले आइए. And this Diwanji was already terrified because he understood that the things were not moving in the correct direction. So वो अपना मन बना के उनकी तस्वीर लेकर आए. And Swamiji then said, now spit on it. इस पर थूक दीजिए. और वो दीवान बोले, how can I spit on this? मैं इस पर कैसे थूक सकता हूं? ये तो हमारे महाराज मंगल सिंह जी की तस्वीर है. And then Swamiji turned his attention to Mangal Singh and he said, my dear king, this is just your photograph. ये तो सिर्फ आपकी एक तस्वीर है. It does not have your blood. It does not have your flesh. It does not have anything. All that it has is the emotions of your Diwanji. Similarly, it's a matter of emotions of that devotee towards the Lord. The devotion of the devotee is everything. And this is for our own convenience. In the truest form, that Brahma Chaitanya is in Nirgun Nirakar form. But why it is important to worship that Nirgun Nirakar form in the Sagun Sakar? This is for our own convenience. This is because we should remember it daily, and only then we remain connected. This is very important. In schools, they give homework. What is the requirement of homework? Why homework is important? Am I audible? Can you hear me? Can someone please confirm that you can hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So why homework is important in school days? It's important because the kids, they get to remember, they get to revise, and bas idol worshipping wahi hai. We should revise, we should be in touch with that Almighty. There are very few people who are elevated souls and they are constantly in touch with that divine. But for common people, it's important that on daily basis we should remember and remind ourselves that all our life is about a big concept of yajna, and it's important to think beyond our own selves. It's important to do selfless actions, and what reminds us is these deities So if I am worshipping Ram, I will remember many beautiful episodes from his lifetime. And then I can challenge the Ram inside me that can I also follow him, if not completely, partially? अंशात्मक क्या मैं उनको फॉलो कर सकता हूं? That's very important. We should ask these questions constantly. And this is because, see, if you want to be lazy, if you don't want to do anything, it doesn't need anything at all. If you want to do something for society, it requires sacrifice. It requires your time. It requires your energy. It requires your attention. And unless we are reminded that our life is a yajna, we won't be motivated to do all such things. And that's why idol worship is for our convenience. It is meant for us. And we should do it as if that idol is a living legend. And if we have our devotion set accordingly, only then the next generation is going to set their parameters as is. And that's why it's very important that we should get convinced, and that will get reflected in our actions. The next generation, they will not probably listen to what we are saying, but they will learn a lot from our actions. They say actions speak louder than words. If I tell my son that he should read Bhagavad Gita, and if I am watching television, he will not listen to me. He will also watch television. But if I am reciting Bhagavad Gita, my son will start reciting Bhagavad Gita without me telling him. If I am doing Deva Puja with all my attention, with all my devotion, with unflinching devotion, my son will automatically start doing it. I don't need to preach that and tell that to him. And that's why idol worshipping is convenience. It is convenience for us. There is this popular verse from Bhagavad Gita, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. And many times people say, what kind of dharma is this? Usko bar bar glani aa jati hai. So it is not dharmaya glani, it is dharmasya glani. Dharma ki glani aati hai aapko aur hame. And that's why it's very important कि हम पूजा पाठ करें, नित्य कर्म करें, जिसके द्वारा धर्म की ग्लानि हमें ना आए. We should be able to take and draw inspirations from the life and work of our idols. And again, there is so much of choice. कोई हनुमंत जी की आराधना कर सकता है, कोई प्रभु रामचंद्र जी की, कोई भगवान श्री कृष्ण जी की, कोई परशुराम जी की. There are 33 crore deities and no compulsion again. Let's take few examples. When we do this puja, why should we put tilak on forehead? You must have heard of 7 predominant chakras. And what we have over here is Ajna Chakra. And it's very important to put a tilak of Chandan. Chandan is pacifier, and it pacifies our mind, pacifies our thoughts, and it directs our thoughts towards the deity. That's why putting tilak on forehead has a lot of scientific meaning behind it. Why should we ring a bell? Ghanta naad karte hain na, Kuru ghanta ninadam tu sarva karyartha siddhe. But what is the reason? Agamartham tu devanam गमनार्थम चु रक्षसाम. जो भी राक्षस है वो चले जाए, जो भी देवता है वो वहां सन्निध हो. That's why we do घंटानाद. Why do we do तुलसी पूजन? Why do we do कौंच पूजन, शंख की पूजा? Why do we do कलश पूजा? It's very important for us to understand the science behind it. I will just give you couple of pointers. कलश जो होता है कई बार धातु का होता है. Could be made of copper, could be made of brass. और उस कलश में जल होता है, पानी होता है. This is a symbol. See, all our rituals are symbolic. So उसमें जो जल होता है, it's a symbol of primordial water from which this entire Vishwa came into existence. This is neatly explained in Nasadiya Sutta. What we had in pre-primordial times was that just one being. And after that, during primordial times, the water came into existence, and from water, we got the complete earth. It's a very scientific evolution. So वो कलश में जल होता है, which represents primordial times. उसके बाद हम केले के पत्ते रखते हैं, नारियल रखते हैं, coconut. So these are suggestives of starting of the universe. And then we also have the threads. The threads typically indicate that we can keep the entire universe bound in one single thread of devotion, love and peace. So ये सारे suggestive है, ये सारे symbols हैं. Why should we do prayer before eating the food? Why should we chant Shanti thrice? Why should we do Arati? Again, it's the same concept. We should be grateful. When we do prayer before eating the food, we are saying thank you to the Lord. And we are also saying thank you to Bhudev. We are saying thank you to the nature. There are Trividhata, Adhidaivik, the divine forces. For example, the floods and the earthquakes. Adhibhautik, that these are the perturbations that emerge out of the worldly matters. Could be accident, could be pollution, could be corruption. And then Adhyatmik. In Adhyatmik, we have Shad Ripus. So when we say Om Shanti, Shanti, Shantihi, that essentially indicates that there should be Shanti of all these three types of tapas, Adhibhautik, Adhidaivik and Adhyatmik. And then we do Arti. Arti emerges out of Artha. So these are the prayers that we sing in Artha Swar. And the science behind Arti is we use camphor. Karpur hota hai na? So when we ignite camphor, nothing is left behind. So our ego should get burnt like that. Unless we forget the I, we will not be able to fully understand the divine, the divinity. And that's why these all are suggestive measures. What is the concept of fasting? We all do fasting. It could be on Ekadashi or on every Tuesday or on every Saturday. And the Sanskrit name of fasting is Upavas. And it emerges out of Upa Adhika Vasa. Upa Adhika Vasa means you should be in close vicinity to the divine, to the Lord, to the God. So how is it connected with your eating habits? How is it connected with fasting? Well, the reason behind this is majority of the time, our mind thinks a lot about eating. After getting up, we think about eating our breakfast. In a couple of hours, we are again hungry. We think about, or we feel hungry. Sometimes we are not hungry, but we feel hungry. And we start thinking about our lunch. Then we start thinking about a cup of tea. Then we start thinking about our dinner. And our mind is so preoccupied with food. It's also preoccupied because food needs to be prepared. And preparing a food is a big process. So fasting, the connection of fasts with Upavas is freeing your mind so that your mind will be more focused on the deity. And you should be able to do your prayers with more focused mind. Ultimately, it's all about your mind. You can close your eyes and you can do the chanting. But if you are thinking only about worldly matters, it is not going to help you at all. And that's why your ability to focus your mind, your ability to take away all the worldly matters from your chitta is extremely important. And that's why the Upavas is connected with fasting. Unfortunately, in modern era, what we do is, there is popular saying in Marathi, we say Ekadashi duppata khashi. So instead of eating less, we end up eating almost the double, and also the kind of food which is going to lead us to diabetes and blood pressure. So we eat sometimes all the kind of food that is going to increase the acidic levels. It is not at all prescribed anywhere. And it is done by convenience. So sometimes people say, हाँ fasting को चाय तो चल जाता है. कहाँ पे लिखा है? Where is it written? It's because you want to consume tea on your fast day. You say, हाँ उपवास के दिन चाय तो चल जाता है. उपवास के दिन batata and ratala, and it's all crazy. Nowhere it's written. If you really want to do fast, you can consume fruits, because fructose is again natural, and our body gets to think less when it is consuming fructose rather than consuming glucose. And that's why fruits are prescribed for upavas, if at all you want to do that kind of upvas. Again, there is nirjali, ekapatri. You can only eat one leaf and perform the ritual. Nirjali, you are not allowed to drink even water, and so on and so forth. But please understand the science behind it. For example, the science behind nirjali is, if you are suffering with P2P kind of diagnosis, then nirjali upvas is extremely good for you. So we should not do these rituals just blindly without really understanding them. So where are the prescriptions given? If I want to do the fasts, where is it given? So there is Katyayan Samhita, and in Katyayan Samhita, different types of upavas and how they should be performed, it is given very systematically. Very rarely we find people who have read Katyayan Samhita and who have really understood how to carry out these rituals. And that's why I'm saying that in the modern era, these rituals, they have gone blind. We are just following these rituals very blindly. How about pradakshina? So we typically do the circumlating in a clockwise manner, and there is reason behind it. And the reason is the deity should be on the right hand side. We say Vama Marga and Dakshina Marga. So Vama Marga is adharma, and Dakshina Marga is dharma, and dharma is righteous path. So my deity should be towards my right hand side, and that's why we do the pradakshina in a clockwise manner. If we keep that in our mind, that my deity should be on my right hand side, that will serve the purpose of that ritual. Probably I will drop this, and we can probably discuss this at the time of questions and answers, keeping tab on the time as well. Rituals in marriage, that is something I will quickly discuss about that. See, marriage is a sanskar. Our culture is very different than the Western culture. And I probably told you that popular joke from United States last time. A wife calls up her husband in the office and she tells him that come home quickly. And the husband asks, what's wrong? And the wife tells him that your children and my children are fighting with our children. So getting divorced and getting remarried, these are very common things in Western culture. Our culture is very different. We say marriages are thought of in heaven, and marriage is a sanskar. It's about getting connected with your life partner, not only at physical level, but deeper than that. And that's why we say the two individuals should become soulmates. And keeping all of this in mind, keeping in mind the deeper connection, marriage ritual has been constructed, and that should be done in that way only. In fact, when we say namaste, what's the reason behind that? Why do we do that? Sanskrit tells us that namaste is namaha te. That means I am telling the other person that I am celebrating your divinity. And that's why I am bowing in front of you And unless and until we do this, so see, when two people meet and when they greet, unless and until you surrender, unless and until we let our egos be taken away, we will not be able to connect with that other person at deeper levels. And that's why we say, Nama, I don't exist. Namaha Te. And that's why we say, Aapki Jai Ho. And that's how we greet and meet people. So it's a very deeper thought that we have, even in the smallest rituals of salutations and saying Namaste with folded hands. We also know that every coin has two sides. And unfortunately, there are some agochari rituals. A complete no-no. In Vedas, it is not mentioned. In Atharva Ved, there is mention of black magic. There is mention of agochari vidya. But the Ved also very categorically says that it should not be followed. And it's a tamasi marga. And from tamasi, people should move to rajas, and from rajas to sattvic. And it's a complete no-no. Vedas, they do not proclaim such kind of rituals. Can we think of changing few rituals in the context of current times? For example, at the time of Maunji Bandhan, the thread ceremony, the mother is not allowed to be present there. And the reason behind this is, in earlier days, after Maunji Bandhan, the son would go to Gurukul, and the mother will not get to see her son for another 12 years. And the mother will feel very bad letting her son go. And that's why in those days, it was prescribed that mother should not be present at the time of the thread ceremony. But in the modern era, mothers are the gurus. In schools, आप मुझे बताइए, हमारे छात्रों का 60 to 70% होमवर्क माता ही करती है ना, और करवा के लेती है. So mother should be present at the time of Maunji Bandhan. हम आजकल ये करते हैं कि we request mothers to go inside, and the mothers are not allowed to see and participate in the thread ceremony. क्या हम इसे change कर सकते हैं? Can we change this? Rituals are, see, there are two things. One is what is known to us as Shruti, and the other one is what is known to us as Smriti. So we say Shruti Smriti Puranokta. So our dharma is Ukta. It is prescribed in Shruti, that is Vedas. Smriti, these are Smriti Grantha, manuscripts written by the sages and acharyas, and Puranokta, the stories and the history from the Purana. Shrutis are Veda Vachans, but Smritis are contextual, and these were written in those times. So the Smriti Vachan should be understood, and we can definitely think of making different prescriptions which are relevant to modern times. There is also a ritual of Shraddha, and it says Shraddhaya Kriyate Yattat Shraddham. So unless there is that Shraddha, there is no point in doing Shraddha. And probably we will talk about it if there are any questions on this. There are also few rituals that emerged because of invasions, like Bala Vivaha. Nowhere it is prescribed in our manuscripts. But due to invasions, the invaders were so barbarian in their nature, they would take away the girls, and that's why the unfortunate rituals like Bala Vivaha, it became part of our society. There is a takeaway, and I'm going to share a story, and then probably I will stop and I'll be happy to answer the questions. I can see one raised hand. Rajesh ji wants to ask a question, but I will conclude by sharing this quick story with you. Once Akbar and Birbal, they were taking a stroll. Yamuna ke रेगिस्तान में अकबर और बीरबल टहलने गए थे. And Akbar was very jealous of Birbal. बीर माने बुद्धि और बुद्धि का बल. So Birbal was, as we know, one of the most revered Pandit from the kingdom of Akbar. And so Akbar wanted to defeat Birbal. And so he did one thing. He took a stick and उस रेगिस्तान में he drew one line. उन्होंने एक लकीर बनाई. And he said कि बिरबल, you think of yourself to be very, very intelligent. You get rid of my line without touching it. उसको हाथ नहीं लगाना है. और मेरी ये जो लकीर है उसको मिटा के दिखाइए. And Birbal was Birbal. So what he did was he took the same stick in his hand and he drew another line which was bigger and larger. And he said, my line is bigger and larger, so naturally your line is destroyed. Similarly, in our society, there are lines of ignorance. There are lines of blindly following rituals. It's very important that you and me, we should come together and draw the line which is bigger than the line of ignorance and negligence through our discussions, deliberations, forming consensus, understanding the rituals, understanding our manuscripts, and for that matter, reading our manuscripts is extremely important. Let's start walking that path, and slowly and gradually, we'll be able to create that wider and longer line in our society. And on that note, I will stop, and I'll be happy to take the questions because we also need to keep tab on the clock. Rajesh ji, I can see your raised hand. So can we take first question from Rajesh ji after the session?
Yeah, Rajesh ji.
Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev, namaste.
Just you touched upon the marriage importance of marriage rituals. Then you did not go little detail on that. What are the importance of marriage rituals? So if you can throw some light on that, it would be great.
Sure. So marriage is one of the 16 sacraments. हमारे जो 16 संस्कार है उसमें से एक marriage है. And there are two styles. One is called as Vedic, the other one is called as Dharmic. But in both these, the crux is two very important rituals. The first one is called as Laja Home, and the second one is called as Saptapadi. But the meaning behind both these is in Laja Home, जो लाया होता है ना वो हम ऑफर करते हैं to the holy Agni. And the ritualistic meaning behind this is post-marriage, our lives, we are going to be grihasthis, and we will make sure that we will follow all the norms of being a good grihastha. We will welcome the guests, we will give the food to the needy, and we will think beyond us. So it's a ritual that reminds us that although marriage is also about prosperity and spending the life together, connecting with the other person at the level of the soul, it's also thinking beyond just the two of them. It's also thinking beyond just the two families. We call it as Vyashti, Samashti, and Parmeshti. So moving from individual, going to the societal level, and then reaching out to the divine. So Laja Home in a way suggests the pathway from Vyashti to Samashti to Parameshti. Saptapadi, there are 7 very interesting steps. Vruddhischaiva, Dharmaschaiva, Danaschaiva. So it talks about 7 different things that the husband and wife, they should do together. And these 7 steps, they have emerged out of 5 different types of yajnas that we very briefly talked about. The Pitru Yajna, Bhu Yajna, Deva Yajna, Brahma Yajna, and Acharya Yajna. So out of these 5 yajnas, these 7 steps, they have emerged out. And if you want to read more about it, again, Katyayan Smriti has given a very detailed description of it. The interesting part is in all these 7 steps, the female spouse is ahead of the male spouse. And probably ours is the only culture in which we have goddess. We recently celebrated Navratri, and it was so good to see women going out of the house even at 10:30, 11:30. Ashtamiच्या दिवशी घागरी फुंकतात ना. It was so good to see women and girls doing that without any fear. We should have such atmosphere 24/7. Women and girls, they should always feel safe and secured. And that's what this Saptapadi essentially suggests, that the female spouse will always be protected by the male spouse on physicality, and male spouse will always be protected by the female spouse at emotional level, because females are emotionally stronger than males and males are physically stronger than females. This is what nature has given to us, and the Saptapadi in a way reminds us of that. So the first 3 steps are taken with the female spouse ahead, the 4th one is taken together, and the next 3 are taken with male spouse ahead. And it suggests the emotional connect, the physical connect, and then the devotional, the soul connect at 7 different levels. Thank you for asking that question. I know it's we have limited time. And
Yeah, Jairamji.
Jairamji, and then Aishwaryaji.
Jai Gurudev Aditya ji.
Namaste, Jai Gurudev.
I would like you to again elaborate on that Shruti Smriti that you said, and the 3 times Om Shanti 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 that we say. What exactly does it mean?
Sure.
Can you please do that?
Yes. So both are great questions, and thanks for asking. So we say our dharma is Shruti Smriti Puranokta. So Shruti is Vedas, and by Vedas we mean the manuscript of all the 4 Vedas, the Brahman and Aranyakas, and Upanishads. And Upanishads, they come towards the end. That's why they are called as Vedanta, Veda Anta. So that's what Shruti essentially says. And we say that Shruti or Ved are apaurushaya. That means they are not written by rishis. The rishis got the darshan from the divine, and they were only instrumental in writing it down. And that's why these are divine sentences. And so typically the Veda Vachanas, we don't touch them. But the Smriti Grantha, like we have Manusmriti, Vaman Smriti, Yajnavalkya Smriti, Vasishtha Smriti, these manuscripts were written by sages and rishis from those eras. And it gave us guiding principles to be followed in those times, which may be irrelevant, which could have little relevance in the modern era. Many times we see that these are very relevant even in today's era, but there are certain places where if it is not relevant, we should change it. And that's why the Smritis are the ones that should be examined carefully. If they have gone irrelevant, it's important that we should be able to come up with new verses and new sayings. Puran talks about history. So Pura Adhika Ana. It talks about what's happening on all these Saptadvipa Khandas. And that's why it's predominantly geography and history. And we keep evolving that. Google Map provides us all the latest information. So Puran, anyways, it gets updated. But unfortunately, we have lost the main differentiator between Shruti and Smriti. And the Vedic Vachanas are eternal, but the Smriti Vachans, they are relevant only in those times. And that's why they should be updated as and how it is required. Many of the rituals, they emerge out of Smriti Grantha. And that's why we should examine them. The Dharmapit should examine the Smriti Vachanas, and they should be updated. Now for
Can I just interrupt? Yeah.
Yes.
So the rituals, three types that you said: the Vedic rituals, ancient rituals, then the medieval rituals, and the modern rituals. So,
Correct.
as you said, which of these fall into Smriti category?
So the ancient rituals are Vedic scripts, the
Yeah.
rituals that we get from Vedas. The medieval ones are the Smriti Grantha. So the rituals that emerge out of Smriti Grantha. And the
Right.
modern ones are blind because we don't read any manuscript. In fact, we sometimes do criticize these manuscripts without reading them. Particularly Manusmriti has been criticized a lot. I don't
Yes.
know how many of those they have actually read Manusmriti. It's a beautiful manuscript and it's very interesting. One should read it, understand it. And again, like I said, it's a smriti. So if there are few sentences which are irrelevant, then we should modify it. As simple as that.
Okay. Okay. Great. Got it. Thank you.
Yes, and the Shanti part is the Trividha that we go through, the three types of sufferings. They are typically Adhidaivik, which emerge out of the divine forces like earthquake and floods and the eruptions of the volcanoes. Adhibhautik, so they emerge out of the worldly matters from this earth with the likes of pollution and corruption or the betrayal from our close ones and so on and so forth.
These are
And
Adi
the
Bhautik, right?
Adhyatmik. Sorry?
This one was the Adi Bhautik.
Adi Bhautik, yes.
Yeah.
And the Adhyatmik are the spiritual ones. And there are Shadripus, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Mada, Manda, Adhikar. So all these should be taken care of. And that's why we say Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Dhanyawad.
Thank you, Aditya. Yeah, Aishwarya ji.
Hello.
Namaste.
Yeah, Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev.
I wanted to ask one question that these days or rather, like since I was a child, I have been hearing that many of the goddesses, whenever the goddess is worshipped, there is a animal which is surrendered to that goddess. So basically, there is animal killing in the goddess's temple itself. So, does any of our Vedas or any of our ancient books suggest such practice, or it is a man-made practice which is followed?
It is a complete man-made practice. The animals that we see with the goddesses, we also see the animals with gods because we did not have vehicles in those days. So animals were the vehicles. So Garud is the vehicle of Vishnu, for example. But there is no mention of killings. I will quickly show you this particular slide. I hope you are able to see this slide. And
Yes.
this particular verse is taken from Mahabharata. This is what Mahabharata tells, and it says that ahimsa is at the pinnacle of any ritual, and it does not proclaim himsa at all. In fact, there are a few verses in Atharva Veda which says that if there is himsa of any kind in the ritual, then although the ritual is performed neatly and correctly, it will not yield you anything. And that's why the animal killings and the himsa is definitely not proclaimed in our manuscripts. It is man-made and it's very blindly being followed in the modern times and modern era. How by killing an animal we can gain something which is spiritually good? It's just not possible. For that matter, in our scriptures, abhaksha bhakshan and apeyapan, that means drinking alcoholic drinks and eating samish is also completely prohibited. And we should, that's why, keep these in our minds. Again, it's also very explained in detailed in Katya and Samhita. Does that answer your question, Aishwarya ji?
Yes, it answers me. And there is one last question which I wanted to ask is like when we perform a fasting, like upavas, when we say it as a upavas, I always understood it as that one should not sacrifice mere eating on that day, but I feel that we should be abstain from all our activities and we should be more into a spiritual activity on that day connected with the like Ishwar. So that was my understanding of upavas. It does only fasting lead to upavas, or it should be overall upavas on all the fronts?
Yes. So there are 12 different types of upavas which are categorically given. So 12 different types of yajna in Bhagavad Gita. And it could be mauna yajna. So you don't say and you only do the manan on that day. So there are 12 different types. It starts at a physical level, then it goes little deeper at antahkaran chatushtay, buddhi, ahankar, mana, and chitta, and then it goes further deeper. So we have 5 different types of kosha, pancha kosh, from annamay kosh to pranamay kosh, and then beyond pancha kosh, there is turyavastha. That's where that divine lies. And so it's a very systematic process. It has got nothing to do with eating styles and eating habit. However, like I said, why in the modern days it is connected with eating is because eating has started occupying our minds so much. See, in the earlier days, in Pune, if you go out on Saturday night, you will find all restaurants with at least 1 hour of waiting time. That means we have stopped worshipping the food and food has become a commodity. Doing it on one odd occasion is understood, but these days food is available to us, and that's why we have started overeating, and that occupies our mind to such a greater extent. And that's why in the modern times the upavas is connected with fasting. If you do the fasting, it's one type of vachik and kaik tapashcharya. It is kaik because it is going to be good for your body, and it is going to be vachik also because naturally the fruits, if you are only eating fruits, they will push you towards speaking only good things about people.
Thank you, Aditya. And the last, Purnima.
Yes, Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev.
Namaste, Jai Gurudev.
Yeah, one just small question I wanted to ask. There is a, I don't know whether it is part of ritual or we never spoke about it or touched upon the topic. The menstrual periods, those 3 days when the ladies are not allowed to do the puja. I mean, is it like there is a story behind it about the female getting the Brahmahatya dosha, if I'm not wrong. So can you throw a little light on that, and how the ladies are not allowed to do the puja on those days, and they're supposed to be not eligible to this thing. So, I mean, I do follow the system, but nowadays the generation, I mean, how to convince them, the girls,
Yeah.
or I don't know whether I'm like how to tell them that the belief
Yes, this is an important question, and thank you for asking this question, ma'am.
Sorry.
So a parallel example to this is, let's say I come from outside and my feet are dirty. Can I perform the puja without washing my feet? The answer of this question is no, because the Sagun Puja is all about making sure that your mind elevates and it gets connected with that deity. And menstrual cycles in women are shuddhikaran, some kind of shuddhikaran that happens of female body. And all women are empowered by nature. It's a big boon. The motherhood And that's why we say Matru Devo Bhava first and then Pitru Devo Bhava. All women are blessed by nature. Sometimes we say there should be equality, gender equality between men and women. It's a misnomer because our culture says that female are uh, purer and better than male, and that's why we say Matru Devo Bhava first. When we say we want equality, we are trying to bring them on the same level. So
Same ground.
these 4 days of menstrual cycle, see, it's a matter of shuchita. It's a matter of cleanliness. It's a matter of clarity on what you wish to do. So what best we can do is for those 4 days, you don't have to perform the actual puja. And after that, you can start performing the actual puja because it's a sagun thing. For those 4 days, you can enjoy the nirgun puja, which is at a mental level, which is at a more elevated level. Having said that, the norms are different. These days, we have better solutions with us. And if you can still maintain the cleanliness, earlier, women also did not used to cook for those 4 or 5 days. But now things are different. However, when it comes to puja, my personal take on this is for those 4 or 5 days, women can stay away from the actual puja and they can do the mental level puja because, anyways, they are undergoing a very beautiful cycle of purification of the body and they can enjoy that. Puja also requires physical exercise, and in those 4 or 5 days women are little weak, so they should take more rest. They should not stretch their bodies, and once the periods are over, then sure, it's more purified form and you can compensate for that by doing more puja for the rest of the day.
True, but is it mentioned in the Shastras that the 4 days we are not supposed to cook? Like, because we do follow it at home, but the younger generation refuses to follow that. Like,
Yes.
practically, it is difficult also at some times nowadays. So
Correct.
there's a lot
So-
of resistance that हमको अलग मत बिठाओ, हमको अलग treat मत करो. So
Correct.
that sort of resistance comes on that. So that part of like not cooking and not entering the kitchen or the puja room, there the clash comes.
Correct.
When you
No,
try
so
to
they should not be treated separately, and उनको अलग नहीं बिठाना चाहिए. उनको बिल्कुल अलग नहीं बिठाना चाहिए. They should be allowed to be with everybody. In fact, these are 4 or 5 days where the women will require more support mentally, emotionally. So they should be allowed to rest more. So the science behind not making them cook is that they will get some rest. See,
Correct.
in the earlier days, there were no mixers and grinders, and cooking was so difficult. It was very taxing physically. And that's why it was a convenience which was meant for women so that they should not be taxed, they should not be burdened with cooking. If you can maintain the cleanliness and sanctity, of course, why can't you cook? So women, and these days we also have very good cooking utensils and mixers and grinders, and science and technology has given us a lot of tools. That's why I fully agree with the younger generation. In fact, women should not be treated differently. उनको अलग से बिल्कुल नहीं बिठाना चाहिए. लेकिन all these rituals, they only suggest one thing, that for those 4 or 5 days, women are weak physically, and so they should be given complete support emotionally, mentally. Now, it is so unfortunate that women, if the women are treated like a chut, and if they are completely separated from the family, from the God, from the divine, in my opinion, it's a crime. So those 4 or 5 days, women should be given a lot of rest, physically, emotionally, mentally, because they are undergoing a lot, and it's a process that should be understood.
Thank you, Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, Harsh, last question, please.
Harshji, yes.
जय गुरुदेव।
जय गुरुदेव, नमस्ते।
सर आपने वो नो बुक का नाम बताया था अबाउट फास्टिंग एंड ऑल, कैन यू रिपीट दैट नेम?
कात्यायन संहिता।
संवेदा।
यस।
ओके, सो उसमें लाइक वो ये लाइक फास्टिंग के रूल्स और वो सब लिखे होंगे, राइट?
हाँ,
एंड
उसमें
कैन
भी
यू, देयर इज
और भगवत गीता में भी है।
या सॉरी,
भगवत गीता में भी है अबाउट 12 डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ यज्ञ। दोज आर, उपवास के ही 12 प्रकार हैं।
okay, and someone in no text has written about soma. Can you elaborate in that also, like soma ras कहते हैं, like I guess elixir of life, so उसके बारे में?
So I have a very different take on somaras. You must have read this कि सोमरस पीने से शक्ति आ जाती है, शक्तिवर्धक है, and Indra really likes somras. So my take on this is little scientific. Indra is so see, in Vedic scriptures, all the Vedic verses, they are written with 3 different contexts: Antariksha, Dyava, and Prithvi. So Antariksha, Dyava, and Prithvi. On Prithvi, there is only one Devata as per Rigveda, and that Devata is Agni, because we can see Agni in its pure form on Prithvi. In Antariksha, there is only one Devata according to Rigveda, and that is Aditya, Surya, because we get all the energy from Surya. And in Dyulok, there are 2 deities. One is Indra, and the other one is Mitra Varuni. Now, Indra, according to me, is a metaphor. And the lightning that we see, many times, वो जो stories हम पढ़ते हैं ना कि Indra was able to defeat Vritrasur और नदियों के सारे बांध उन्होंने हटा दिए. So Vritrasur is just like Megha, and when there is lightning, we get the rains. So that's what it essentially means, according to me. And Soma, according to me, is photosynthesis, because although we get a lot of energy from sun, how do we convert that energy into a usable form? It happens only through photosynthesis. So because the trees, they do photosynthesis and they convert that solar energy into a food form, all the beings, not only human beings, but all the beings, they can consume and use that energy. And that's why, according to me, Somaras is the very process of photosynthesis. And if you see the description of Somaras in Rigveda, it is very close to photosynthesis that we experience.
Thank you very much, Aditya, for this detailed explanation. Aditya, आपको बताने में बहुत खुशी होगी कि अजीत सर का एक सपना है. He want to create a complete encyclopedia of Indian rituals. बहुत सारे तैयार भी किए गए हैं, लाइक सिंपल वन, जैसे घर में हम नजर उतारते हैं तो उसका ऑरा के साथ एग्जैक्टली क्या संबंध है, या बर्थडे के दिन हो, अश्विनी के दिन हो, या फिर श्रावणी शुक्रवार हो, लहान मुलांना ओवाळतो आपण, तो उसके पीछे क्या साइंटिफिक रीजन है. औक्षण will definitely request you also to be part of the expert committee कि जिसमें हम ये encyclopedia of Indian rituals तैयार करें और सारे समाज के सामने रखें, so that इसके पीछे का जो scientific meaning है वो सब लोगों की तरफ पहुंचे. आपने वेदों की भाषा की. सर तो हमेशा बताते हैं वेद इज प्योर नॉलेज, आज्ञा चक्र के लेवल पे इंटेलेक्ट है, और शायद उसी की वजह से जब लैक ऑफ नॉलेज होता है तो उसको वेदना कहा जाता है. पर वेद तो सब लोग समझते नहीं. वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट प्रिंसिपल जिसमें बताए गए हैं, तो शायद वो समझाने के लिए थोड़ा सा उपनिषदों का निर्माण किया गया. बट दे आर एट द विशुद्धि चक्र माइंड लेवल, वो भी नहीं समझे. फिर पुराणों का, कथाओं का निर्माण किया गया. फिर राजा आया, राक्षस आया, मानव आया, देव आया, भावनाएं आई, और उसमें भी वो सारे सिद्धांत, वो सारे प्रिंसिपल छुपाए गए थे. पर उसको भी प्रोसेसेस में कन्वर्ट करना जरूरी है. मतलब 50 साल पहले कोई बोलता कि दूर से अमेरिका से कोई यहाँ पे फोन, एक उपकरण यूज करेगा और हम बात कर सकेंगे, तो उसको हम मुस्कुराते, हम कहते हैं कि ये फंसा रहा है, ये कोई काला जादू कर रहा है। तो कर्मकांड का भी शायद वैसे ही हो गया, प्रोसेस का प्रिंसिपल के साथ आगे चलते चलते नाता छूट गया कहीं ना कहीं। पर ये दोबारा इसका निर्माण करे, और सारे बच्चों को भी, यहाँ पे किसी फैकल्टी ने, किसी पार्टिसिपेंट ने सवाल पूछा कि बच्चों को हम किस तरह से दिखाएं। हमें खुशी है कि DSPPL के माध्यम से 2022 ये जो सारा साल है, अजीत सर ने अनघाष्टमी का व्रत लिया है, और बहुत सारे हमारे साधक, 100 साधक ऑलमोस्ट फ्रॉम इंडिया एंड ऑल्सो अराउंड 20 साधक फ्रॉम USA, हर कृष्णा अष्टमी के, हर महीने में कृष्णाष्टमी जो होती है, तो कृष्णाष्टमी के दिन वो अनघाष्टमी की पूजा करते। और जैसे आपने सारा ये बताया ना, सारा खेल, वो अनघाष्टमी की पूजा भी षोडशोपचार पूजा है। ऑफकोर्स आह्वान से शुरू होती है, आस्किंग दैट स्पिरिट टू अल्टीमेटली गेट कन्वर्टेड इनटू मैटर, सगुण में आए कि हम वो उसकी पूजा करें। वस्त्र दिया जाता है, स्नान करवाया जाता है, अलंकार पहने जाते हैं, और आर्तता से, भाव से पूजा करके फिर अंतिम जो विधि है कापूर का, कापूर आरती का, कैम्फर का, जैसा आपने बताया कि वहां मिट जाए। और दूसरा इसका अर्थ है कि जो पूजा आह्वान के साथ स्पिरिट को मैटर में कन्वर्ट करके शुरू की, उसका अंत वो कापूर आरती से दोबारा मैटर से स्पिरिट में विलीन होके उसकी की जाए। तो बहुत सारे महीने में ये षोडशोपचार पूजा में आते हैं। बहुत सारे लोगों के क्वेश्चंस है उपवास के बारे में, तो सारे लोगों की जानकारी के लिए आदित्य में भी मोर प्रोफिशिएंट इन टेलिंग दिस, एटोफैगी करके उसको नोबेल अवार्ड भी मिलाया है। तो पहले हमारे लोगों को हंसा करते थे लोग कि उपवास करते नहीं है, पर ये तो साइंटिफिकली शायद कहीं ना कहीं प्रूव हो गया है। पर जैसे आदित्य, हाँ भीड़ तो बहुत होती है, होटल के बाहर लोग खड़े हैं, फूड इज अ मेडिसिन ऐसा कहा जाता है, पर ज्यादा खाए तो मेडिसिन अल्टीमेटली बिकम्स योर फूड। Aditya ji, thank you very much for giving the detailed explanation for everything. And last but not least, I will agree that session का नाम character building होना चाहिए था. Once the character is built, ultimately it is the personality which manifests. So definitely नाम का जो गलती है वो मैं मेरी तरफ लूंगा, because नहीं. It was my mistake. And thank you very much. I officially hand it over to Amol for vote of thanks. Thank you.
Namaste Aditya ji. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us your valuable time. I would say that it was not only a interesting session for sure, but I think it was a thought-provoking session for most of us. Though you have just scratched the surface, of this topic, it has raised the curiosity to a great extent amongst all of us, and that was very evident from the kind of questions that we started seeing right from the beginning of this session. So thank you. Most of the points that you covered, right, I think they appeal to all of us. And Guruji also kind of, explains about these rituals. As Pranjal said, it has been Guruji's dream for a long time that, he wants to project the great science that we have behind all our rituals. So what you shared today, I think that aligns with his vision somewhere. So it'll be really nice to, work with you on this subject to in the future as well. Thank you again, for all the details that you have shared with us and for answering all the questions so patiently. Thank you.
मुझे बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद कहना है आप सबको। आपकी वजह से मेरी वाणी पर इतने अच्छे संस्कार हुए। So big thank you to all of you. Always an honor to be associated with DSPPL in whichever possible way. It will be my honor and privilege.
Perhaps it might be a good idea to have another session, a follow-up session on this, because I'm sure many of us have still questions, and because of lack of time, we have not been able to, ask those questions. So let's see if possible, we should have another session, if you are available as well.
We'll be very happy.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Aditya, once again. Thank you to all. We will be ending the meeting now. Thank you.